Hi YouTube, this is Raven. I'm the survivor of a 16-year marriage to a covert narcissist and a survivor now of a year-long high-conflict divorce from a covert narcissist. And more than likely, if you're in a high-conflict divorce with someone who has a personality disorder, that person probably has parents who have personality disorders, or they came from an abusive environment. In my case, my husband, his parents, his dad has narcissistic personality disorder, and I believe his mother probably has borderline personality disorder. And I could never figure out why my in-laws hated me. And it wasn't just that they disliked me, but I think they actually hated me for some reason. And I did everything I could, from keeping an immaculate home to trying to have a very good career to being the perfect wife and mother. And whatever I did, it never changed how they viewed me. And had I known that they had personality disorders, I could have, I wouldn't have wasted my time and, a lot of heartache and frustration over 16 years trying to figure out, what can I do, And I didn't realize that they had personality disorders until the separation happened. My husband had put a gun in his mouth, tried to kill himself. He was in the mental hospital for a week. When he got out, his parents showed up with him and a moving van to take all of her stuff, and they had papers for me to sign, financial papers, and they were trying to bully me. And my father-in-law even tried to bully my mother into saying, if you just get rid of the lawyer, she'll do much better on alimony and child support. And that's the way his dad always was. He was always a bully. And I didn't realize, the dynamics of a narcissistic family, and had I known that, I could have figured out a long time ago what was going on. But in families with narcissistic parents, there's normally one child is the scapegoat. That's the child that gets crapped on all the time, gets blamed for everything, which was pretty much my husband. He had ADHD, attention deficit disorder, growing up, and early on in our relationship, they kept telling me about how he was such a difficult child to raise. It was so hard, so difficult. You have no idea, Raven, what we went through to raise him, for him to even graduate high school. It was our burden to bear. And his brother, on the other hand, was the golden child, and even extended members of the family called him the golden child. And I didn't know what that meant. At the time, I thought they were talking about the Eddie Murphy movie from the 1980s, called The Golden Child. And, his brother was very popular in high school, president of his class. He even went to West Point, and he blew that opportunity. He dropped out, after only a few months of being at West Point. And his sister, I'm not sure about her. She goes from, I think, being a golden child sometimes to being a scapegoat to, I'm not sure what she is, but, she had weight problems. And they had convinced her that unless she was a size 0 or a size 2, she was never going to meet a man, never going to fall in love and have children and a family. She had diabetes, and his mother had convinced the doctors, or was trying to convince the doctors, that she didn't have actual diabetes. She must have something else. There must be something. She can't just have type 1 or type 2 run-of-the-mill diabetes like everyone else in America has. That, she had something special wrong with her, and that's why she couldn't lose weight. And she was even trying to convince the doctors that maybe she had Crohn's disease. But they convinced his sister to have weight loss surgery. And, she had the lap band. And everything that could go wrong with that surgery went wrong. She developed anemia. She was dehydrated. She ended up back in the hospital. She had peritonitis, an infection of your abdominal wall, and she could have died from it. And the lap band even ate a hole in her esophagus, and she had to have it removed. And I remember sitting in the hospital, and my narcissistic father-in-law was sitting there stuffing his face with carrot cake. It's like, I really hope that this doesn't derail her weight loss, as he's stuffing himself. And neither one of them is skinny. I mean, they both have weight problems, and I was always trying to figure them out. I couldn't figure out why they hated me. I mean, I knew that they were very self-centered. They were bullies. They were arrogant. They always had to have the nicest house. They lived in a country club. Anyone who was different from them, they were suspicious of. They were snobs. They were perfectionists. But, I kind of chalked it up to they were just, rich white people. And, it was a cultural difference because I grew up in a blue-collar household, out in the country. And My father-in-law is in county government. He's a county manager. But he's been fired from every county manager job since I've known him. And I think it's because he's not a people person. And like I said, he's a bully. And so everything, it's either his way or the highway. And, he has no original ideas. Narcs don't seem to have original ideas. They seem to take ideas from other people. And he would go into a county, and the first thing he would do was just start slashing the budget, because he thought, that's what he was hired for. It's like, these people don't run their government right. And he would start eliminating positions. He would look at one county and say, oh, this county only uses 2 people to do the same job that we're using 3 people to do. And so he would look, and of course, the person who had seniority, who had been there for 30 years, she's gone. She's axed. And even though, she'd been serving the county for 30 years, a wonderful public servant, sorry, you're gone. And, after he would slash the budget, I think, the county commissioners caught on to this, that, that instead of making government efficient, he made government ineffective because he wasn't funding it properly. And he did something so egregious one time. He saw nothing wrong with this, but he had underfunded the animal shelter so much that they were having to euthanize animals early, when the adoption period had not expired, because, they couldn't afford to keep them. And he's like, oh, I found out these research companies will pay you $50 a pop, for these euthanized animals that they can study. So, he was going to sell these animals, to these companies. Well, he didn't see the moral dilemma there, because now you've made it to where the animal shelter has no incentive to keep these animals longer to be adopted, and instead it's like, just euthanize them, it's a revolving door. But it didn't work out, because, there's a certain criteria that you have to meet in order to sell these animals to these research companies. And, he kept getting fired from every job. Now he's managing a very small town, in the middle of nowhere. And he says, he's semi-retired. Now, my mother-in-law, I think she has borderline personality disorder, because she has all the emotional manipulation, guilt. She screams at the drop of a hat if she doesn't get her wish. The phrase, if mom ain't happy, nobody's happy, that's her. And, she kind of rules her house with terror. And she only keeps a job for about every 6 months she changes jobs. She's a nurse practitioner. And the only reason I think that she can continue to get jobs is because we have such a shortage of nurses in this country that, anyone's going to hire her. Because otherwise her resume would be like, 50 pages long. But when she first gets the job, she talks about how, oh, it's great, it's wonderful, the best job ever. And then by the time she's there for 6 months, it's like, oh, these people are so incompetent, they make me work all the time, and, they're lucky to have me. Oh, it's the worst place to work ever. And it kind of reminds me of the love bombing stage for narcissists. When you first start the relationship, you can do no wrong, and then, after a while, they start to devalue you and discard you. And that's what she does with jobs. But, she's also very racist. And kind of a funny story, she was getting gas one time in the middle of the country, and she pulls over to a gas station, and African-American gentleman pulled up next to her, the pump next to her, and he's getting gas. And she freaked out, like, oh my God, it's a black person, is he going to rape me, he's going to rob me. And so she grabs the first hose she can grab, and, starts pumping gas into her car. Well, she grabbed the diesel hose and filled her gas tank with diesel. Well, of course, she didn't get very far. She ruined her gasoline engine. And, there was another time where, she knows no boundaries, and she wrecked her car. And so she calls up my Jewish sister-in-law, the one that married the golden child, and demands that she give her car. It's like, I need your car for 2 weeks. And my sister-in-law said, well, doesn't your car insurance pay for a rental car? It's like, I have 2 children, I've got to take to summer camp all summer. How dare you question my finances? I need that car. She was just very entitled that she had to have that car. And, my sister-in-law, she's dealt with a lot over the years too, but, she's been turned into a flying monkey now because she's towing the party line, and I understand that because, she has to live in that family. I don't. They were a major source of stress for me, and now they're not, because they're not in my life. But, I could write a book about these people, just the crazy things that they did over the years, and I think at some point I will do a video just on the crazy strange things that they do because, narcs have no self-awareness. They don't understand regular behavior or boundaries. They don't respect other people's boundaries, especially with them getting involved in this divorce. They've funded the divorce from my husband's side where he has no skin in the game. I mean, they've paid like $10,000 in legal fees already for him to divorce me. They've bought him a condo. They pay him money for the children to have, clothes and books and toys. He doesn't have to pay for anything. And it's because he's convinced them that, I'm the person who's abusing him now, and I'm taking all of his money, which, is not true. He's not paying anything. He's paying a little bit of child support, but he's paying no alimony, but he's got them convinced of that. But if you're in a high conflict divorce, if you can keep your in-laws out of the conflict, the divorce will go a lot smoother. But if you're in a high conflict divorce and you do have in-laws that have personality disorders, unfortunately, they're probably going to get involved. And the best advice that I can tell you is to be the most calm and rational person around them. Don't give them any ammunition to confirm their beliefs about you, that yes, you're the bitch, you're the bastard, or whatever, that married their son or daughter and ruined their life. Don't do that. Be rational and reasonable around them. Go gray rock with them. That's where you're as boring as gray rock. You don't react. Don't give them any ammunition to use against you. All right, well, that's all for now. Be vigilant. Be safe. Take care.